It's 2 a.m., your bedroom is dark, your face is pressed into the pillow completely still. You're not dreaming yet, you're just out. And on that still face, hundreds of tiny animals just woke up. 8 legs each? Long, pale, worm-shaped bodies built for crawling. Right now, in the dark, they are pulling themselves out of the pores of your nose, your cheeks, the roots of your eyelashes, and they are crawling across your skin to find each other, to mate on your face while you sleep. You don't feel a thing, no itch, no tickle, no bite, no sign at all. That's not an accident, that's the whole trick, and we'll get to why in a minute. These aren't germs, they're not bacteria, they are animals, arachnids, tiny cousins of spiders and ticks, and they have been living on the human face for as long as there have been human faces. You have them, I have them, the person you love most on this planet has them right now crawling. They're called Demodex, and almost every adult on Earth is carrying a colony of them and has no idea. By the end of this, you're going to know exactly what they do to your face every single night, why your own body lets them stay and never fights back, and the thing nobody warns you about, what happens to all of them when they die. Because that last part was the most disgusting rumor in biology for over 100 years. And in 2022, scientists finally found out the truth. So stay with me, because you are never going to look at your own reflection the same way again. Let's meet your roommates. They have a name that sounds like a villain from a space movie, Demodex, and there are two kinds living on you right now. The first is Demodex folliculorum. It's the bigger of the two, though bigger is doing a lot of work in that sentence. It's about 3/10 of a millimeter long. To picture that, imagine lining up 8 of them end to end just to stretch across the little letter O in the middle of a word. You could fit a small crowd of them on the head of a pin. The second is Demodex brevis, shorter, stubbier, and it burrows even deeper down into the oil glands under your skin where it's even harder to reach. Here's the first thing that should mess with you. When you hear tiny thing living on your skin, your brain probably pictures a germ, a little blob, something simple. These are not simple. Look at one under a microscope and you'll see a face-hugging monster in miniature. 8 stubby legs bunched up at the front. A long, see-through, segmented tail of a body trailing behind, little mouth parts that scrape and suck. They are, by every biological definition, animals arachnids in the same family tree as the spider in your garage and the tick on a dog's ear. So this isn't a smear of bacteria we're talking about. This is a spider relative shrunk down small enough to live inside a single one of your pores. Head down, tail up, wedged into your skin like a diver going into a hole. And it's not one lonely mite. A single pore can house several of them packed in together, sharing the space. Your face isn't hosting a few stray visitors. It's hosting a population. And where exactly do they set up that population? That's where it gets specific, and a little worse. Let's zoom in on where they live. Because they don't spread out evenly, Demodex are picky about real estate and they want the oiliest, richest neighborhoods your face has to offer. That means the T-zone, your forehead, the sides of your nose, especially those little creases where your nose meets your cheek, that's beachfront property to a mite. Your chin, your cheeks. And then there's the part that makes people's skin crawl the most, your eyelashes. The roots of your eyelashes and eyebrows are one of the most crowded mite cities on your entire body. Pull back the skin at the base of a single lash under a microscope and you can find them tucked in there, tails poking out, packed into the follicle like commuters in a rush hour train. Think about that the next time you rub your eyes. Here's a way to picture their whole world. To a Demodex mite, one of your pores isn't a tiny dot. It's a studio apartment. A warm, oily, perfectly humid little cave that never runs out of food and never gets cold. It's the only home they'll ever know. Most of them will live their entire lives inside a space smaller than the period at the end of a sentence and never travel more than a few millimeters from where they were born. Your whole face to them is a continent. A single eyebrow is a mountain range. And the journey from one pore to the next, the trip they make at night is, for them, a long and dangerous expedition across open ground. A mite that lives in the pore beside your nostril may never in its life meet a mite from your forehead. Different cities, different populations, same face. You are not a person to them, you are a planet. And every night on that planet the residents come out, which brings us to the part that really gets strange, the night shift. Let's talk about the night shift. During the day, your mites hide. They stay down in their pores out of the light doing very little. If you're up walking around in daylight, they're basically asleep in their burrows. Then the sun goes down, and they wake up. Demodex are nocturnal. They hate light. A bright room sends them retreating back down into your skin. So they wait. They wait until you're in the dark. They wait until you're lying still. They wait in a lot of cases until the small hours of the morning, somewhere around 2 or 3 a.m. And then they climb out. They haul themselves up out of the pore, out onto the open surface of your face, and they start to crawl. Slowly, about 16 millimeters an hour, which for something that small is a real trek. In the dark, across your cheek, they're searching for one thing. Each other. Because the surface of your face at night is where they mate. They come out of their separate pores, find a partner on the open skin, pair up and reproduce right there on your face in the dark while you're unconscious a few centimeters away. Then, before the sun comes up, they crawl back down into a pore. The female lays her eggs inside the follicle, and the whole thing resets. And that reset is faster than you'd ever guess. Those eggs hatch deep in your skin into tiny larvae with fewer legs than the adults, pale little things that grow up entirely inside the pore. They molt, they add legs, they shift through stage after stage from larva to a young mite to a full-grown adult, all without ever leaving the follicle you're growing them in. And the whole life cycle, egg to crawling adult to breeding on your face at night to dead, takes about 2 weeks. Which means the population on your face isn't just sitting there, it's turning over constantly. New mites hatching, old mites dying, a fresh generation coming of age on your cheek every couple of weeks forever. Now here's a detail that sounds made up but isn't. How does a blind little mite know when it's night? Researchers think they cheat. Demodex struggle to make their own melatonin, the chemical that signals it's dark, get moving. So they may borrow yours. Your skin makes melatonin as the day winds down, and the mites appear to use that chemical cue as their alarm clock. Your own body is quietly ringing the dinner bell for them. You go to bed, your skin says it's night, and an entire hidden population reads that signal, wakes up, and climbs out to breed on your face. You're telling me they use my own body chemistry to know when to come out and mate? Yes, they do. And what are they eating out there? That's next. Let's talk about what they eat. Because a mite living in your pore needs a food source and it doesn't have to look far, it's swimming in the stuff. Demodex eats sebum, the oil your skin makes, that greasy shine you get on your nose and forehead by the afternoon, that slick you blot off with a tissue. To a mite, that's the buffet, endless, free, and refilled every single day by your own body. They also snack on dead skin cells, the tiny flakes your skin is always shedding, plus the odds and ends down inside the follicle. Your face makes garbage. They eat the garbage. It's honestly a tidy little arrangement. Which explains something. The oilier your skin, the more mites you tend to host. Teenagers hitting puberty, skin pumping out oil like a broken faucet, mite paradise. People with naturally greasy T-zones, more mites. The richer the buffet, the bigger the crowd that shows up to eat at it. And here's a small mercy, if you can call it that. For the most part, they're not eating you, they're eating your leftovers, the oil and dead cells you were going to shed anyway. For most people, most of the time, that's the whole relationship. They eat your trash, they leave the living tissue underneath alone. Nobody's sending you a bill for the room and board either. No rent, no lease, no deposit. They just move in, eat what your face throws out, and quietly pass the address down through the generations. Which raises a question you probably haven't asked yourself, because why would you? If you weren't born with these things, how exactly did they get onto your face in the first place? Let's rewind to how you got them. Because here's something strange. A newborn baby's face is more or less a clean slate. Babies are generally born without Demodex, fresh skin, no mites, not yet. So they have to come from somewhere, and they come from us, from the people who love the baby. Every time someone holds a newborn close, every cheek pressed against a cheek, every kiss on the forehead, every long hour of a baby nursing face pressed to a parent's skin, that's contact. And across that contact, a few mites make the crossing. They walk from an adult's skin onto the baby's brand new face, find a fresh empty pore, and move in. Which means the very first mites you ever got, you almost certainly got from your own mother, or your father, or whoever held you the most in those first weeks of life. Sit with that for a second. The colony living on your face right now is, in a real sense, an inheritance, a living heirloom. You didn't buy it. You didn't catch it from a stranger on a train. You were handed it gently by the people who cared for you before you could even hold up your own head. And you'll pass it on the same way. If you have kids, or you cuddle a niece, or you hold a friend's newborn, you're doing what humans have always done, handing over the family mites one hug at a time. There was no moment you got infected, no bite, no bug, no bad night in a strange hotel. There was just love, skin against skin, a parent holding a child. That's the entire transmission story of one of the most common animals on the human body. The creepiest thing on your face got there through the most tender thing humans do. And people have known about these mites longer than you'd guess. Let's meet the man who first found them. The year is 1842. There are no electron microscopes, no DNA sequencing, none of the tools we'd reach for today. But there are curious people with lenses scraping gunk off the human body just to see what's in it. And a scientist looking at material squeezed from human skin finds something moving. Something with legs, a tiny, worm-shaped, eight-legged creature that had up to that very moment lived on human faces for who knows how many thousands of years, completely unseen, completely unknown, riding along on every face in the room and never once noticed. Imagine being the first human being to knowingly look one of these in the eye. To realize that this thing isn't a rare disease or a one-off freak of nature. It's on you too, it's on the person next to you. It has been on people the whole time. That's how Demodex entered the record, named, cataloged, filed away as a curiosity. For a long time after, people mostly shrugged at them, a harmless little passenger, not worth worrying about. But every few decades the mites pull us back in. Because every time our tools get better, we look closer, and every time we look closer, they get stranger. First, we could only see their shape, then we could watch them move. Then, eventually, we'd crack open their DNA and find something almost nobody expected, something we'll get to near the end because it changes what these things even are. For now, hold on to one fact from 1842. We have known for well over a century that we are not alone on our own skin. And in all that time, one question kept nagging. If there are animals crawling on my face every single night, why in the world can't I feel them? Let's talk about why you can't feel them. Because this is the part that genuinely unsettles people. Your skin is one of the most sensitive organs you have. You can feel a single hair move, you can feel a fly land on your arm, a crumb in your bed can keep you up half the night. So how does an eight-legged animal crawl across your cheek for hours and you feel absolutely nothing? A few reasons, and they stack up into something eerie. First, size. These might sit just below the threshold where your touch sensors bother to report in. Your nerves are tuned to notice a mosquito, a hair, a grain of sand, things that might be a threat or a meal. A creature 0.3 of a millimeter across, moving slowly and smoothly, slips right under that alarm line. Too small and too gentle to trip the wire. Second, location. A lot of the action happens down inside your pores and follicles, and the deepest parts of that skin structure aren't richly wired with the touch nerves that would sound off. They're moving through a kind of blind spot. And third, this is the unsettling one, your immune system mostly leaves them alone. Your body is a machine built to detect and destroy invaders. It attacks a splinter. It swells up over a single bacterium in a cut. And yet these animals live on you, feed on you, breed on you for your entire life, and your immune system, for the most part, just allows it, tolerates them, treats them like part of the furniture. Think about what that means. You have a bodyguard that fights off threats you will never even know about, and it looked at these crawling arachnids and decided they get to stay. No itch, no pain, no red flag, no warning of any kind. A whole animal, an entire life cycle playing out in total silence on the most sensitive skin you own. And that silence is exactly why the next part stayed a mystery for so long, the part about their bathroom habits. Let's talk about the thing everyone whispers about, the poop. For over a century, there was a rumor about Demodex that got repeated everywhere because it was just too gross not to share. The claim went like this: these mites have no anus, no back door at all, which means supposedly that a mite spends its entire 2-week life eating your skin oil and holding in every bit of waste it ever produces, storing it all up inside its own body. And then it dies, and when it dies and breaks down, the story went, all of that stored up waste finally gets released, dumped out onto your skin in one final, disgusting goodbye. That was the legend. A tiny animal that never poops in life then unloads a lifetime of it into your face in death. People loved that fact, it spread everywhere. You're probably thinking that can't actually be real. That sounds like something invented just to gross people out. And here's the twist. In 2022, scientists finally sequenced the Demodex genome, read their actual DNA at the University of Reading and Bangor University, and they went looking for the truth about the no-anus rumor. The verdict: the rumor was wrong. The mites do have an anus. That famous, viral, everybody knows it fact that they hold in a lifetime of waste and burst turned out to be a myth. They'd just been so small and so hard to study that for over 100 years nobody could see the tiny opening. So they're not walking waste balloons after all. Small relief. But don't relax completely, because the same study that killed off one horror story dug up a pile of new ones about what these mites really are, what happens when they actually die, and where they might be headed. And that's where this gets genuinely strange. First, though, the trouble they cause when their numbers get out of control. Let's talk about when they turn on you. Because most of the time this is a peace treaty. You feed them your leftover oil, they stay out of sight, everybody wins. For the vast majority of people, Demodex are harmless, passengers, not attackers. But the treaty can break. When the mite population on a face explodes, grows way past normal numbers, things start to go wrong. Doctors even have a word for that: overgrowth, demodicosis. And when it happens, the quiet passengers become a problem. You've probably heard of rosacea, that stubborn redness, the flushing, the little bumps across the nose and cheeks that so many people fight with. For a long time it was a mystery. But researchers have found that people with rosacea often have dramatically more Demodex on their skin than people without it, sometimes many times more. The mites may not be the only cause, but a face crowded with them and the bacteria they carry appears to help push that inflammation along. Then there's your eyelashes again. When mites overgrow at the base of the lashes, you can get blepharitis, red, crusty, irritated, itchy eyelids. That gritty, burning, something's in my eye feeling some people wake up with every morning. In certain cases, it traces straight back to a boom in the eyelash mite population. Who gets overrun? Often it's people whose defenses are down. The elderly, people with weakened immune systems, people under heavy, grinding stress. The same bodyguard that normally keeps the numbers in check eases off and the colony seizes the opening and multiplies. So the relationship isn't fixed, it's a balance. A quiet, lifelong balance between your skin, your immune system, and a population of arachnids, and when that balance tips, your own face can turn red and raw with the evidence. Which is exactly why, right about now, a lot of people start asking the same slightly desperate question: can I just get these things off my face? Let's talk about whether you can get rid of them. Short answer: not really, and honestly you probably don't want to. Here's the thing, Because almost every adult has them, and because you'll pick them right back up from the people close to you, wiping them out completely is close to impossible for a normal person living a normal life. You could scrub your face raw tonight, and you'd still be sharing your pillow with survivors deep in your pores by morning, and topping up your supply the next time someone hugs you. Good face hygiene does keep the numbers down, though. Washing your face, especially at night, clearing away the excess oil and dead skin, gently cleaning around the eyelashes, that removes food and living space, and it stops the population from booming out of control. For most people, that ordinary routine is enough to hold the balance. That's really the goal here, not zero mites, just a controlled crowd. When the numbers do get dangerous, full-blown demodicosis, mite-driven rosacea, stubborn crusty eyelids, that's when a doctor steps in with actual treatments that target the mites directly. But that's medicine for a specific problem, not a war everyone needs to fight. Because here's the reframe. These mites are not a sign that you're dirty. Let me say that clearly, because people take this one personally. Clean people have them, athletes have them, celebrities have them, the most beautiful, most glowing, most filtered face you have ever seen covered in them. Having Demodex doesn't mean you failed to wash. It means you're a human being with human skin, which is exactly what they evolved to live on. So no, you can't evict them. You can only be a decent landlord, keep the place from getting overcrowded, and the tenants stay quiet. But there's a stranger question hiding behind how do I get rid of them? It's what they actually are, and what right now they are slowly turning into. Let's talk about what they're becoming. This is the finding from that 2022 genome study, and it's the strangest part of the whole story. When scientists read the Demodex DNA, they found an animal that is falling apart, shrinking, simplifying. These mites have one of the smallest sets of genes of any related creature ever studied. They've thrown away genetic code they no longer need, because life inside your pore is so easy, so safe, so unchanging that they can afford to become almost nothing. They've dropped the genes for surviving daylight. They've lost the ability to make certain things their bodies used to make, which is exactly why they lean on your melatonin instead. They've been stripped down to a bare-bones survival kit. Eat, hide, crawl out at night, mate, repeat. Some of them, researchers found, are down to a startlingly tiny number of cells. And because they spend their whole lives sealed inside our pores, they almost never meet mites from other people. They breed within the same small family group, on the same face, generation after generation. Inbred, isolated, a closed little population with nowhere new to go. Here's what that might mean. The scientists suggested Demodex may be in the middle of a transformation, sliding from being a parasite that lives on us toward becoming a symbiont that lives with us. Something so merged with human beings, so dependent on us and simplified by us, that it's less like a bug and more like a piece of the body it lives on. Or, with a gene pool that's shrunken and that inbred, they may be sliding toward a dead end, a slow evolutionary cul-de-sac that could, one day, quietly wipe them out. Either way, think about what you're carrying, not just an animal in the act of dissolving into us, a creature slowly becoming less of a passenger and more of an organ. And that finally brings us back to the question I planted at the very start. What actually happens when one of them dies on your face? It's not the exploding waste balloon from the myth. We settled that. The truth is quieter and, in its own way, stranger. A Demodex mite lives about 2 weeks, and when its time is up, it doesn't crawl off to some mite graveyard. There isn't one. It dies right where it lived, inside a pore or out on the surface of your skin, and then it simply breaks down, decomposes, right there on your face. As it decomposes, everything that was inside it, its body and the load of bacteria it carried around, gets released into your skin. And that little release, multiplied across a whole population dying and being replaced on a rolling 2-week cycle, is part of what researchers think can feed inflammation in people who are prone to it. Not a poop bomb, something slower. A constant, invisible turnover of tiny bodies breaking down into your pores, day after day, year after year, for your entire life. There is no moment when your face is mite-free. As one generation dies and dissolves into your skin, the next is already hatching in the follicle beside it. being born, crawling out at night, mating, laying eggs, and dying over and over on you. So let's go back to where we started. It's 2 a.m., your face is still, you're asleep, and you feel nothing. But you are not alone on your own skin, you never have been. From the moment a parent first held you to the moment you take your last breath, you carry a hidden population that is born on you, feeds on you, mates on you, dies on you, and is buried in you. This isn't a disease, this isn't an infestation. This is just what it has always meant to have a human face. 8 legs, your skin, the dark right now. So now that you know what's up there, are you actually going to be able to fall asleep tonight? Tell me below.